Hey everybody, welcome back and thanks for watching. In this video, we're going to be talking about the acronym S.P.O.R.T.S. So S.P.O.R.T.S is a method or technique that is used when we're dealing with the malfunction with the AR-15. I've recently done a couple of training videos, and S.P.O.R.T.S has come up quite often. And it seems like some people understand it, some people don't. So I kind of want to go over it just a little bit. I personally don't like using S.P.O.R.T.S that much. It's one of these techniques that is supposed to be a one-size-fits-all, but it actually turns into a one-size-fits-most. And when you're in that most part, it's pretty nice. But when you're not in it, it makes some pretty serious issues that can actually damage the weapon. And if you are in the middle of a fight, it's going to make it inoperable until you're able to take it back and take some parts off. Specifically, this just happened to me the other day when I was trying to do a demo about this very thing and why you shouldn't do it. And I broke something. Okay, so what is S.P.O.R.T.S? Now I'm going to be using some dummy rounds here as well as some spent casings to kind of help illustrate some of these malfunctions. And we're going to go ahead and do what S.P.O.R.T.S works the best at. So S.P.O.R.T.S is going to be, well, let's say what S.P.O.R.T.S is. First thing, and this is something that I'm surprised most people aren't acknowledging this part, but before you do S.P.O.R.T.S, you have to identify a malfunction. You don't just go into S.P.O.R.T.S anytime that the weapon stops working. You identify a malfunction first. Because the most likely thing that is causing the weapon to not work is empty magazine. So we're not going to be here. Let me clear that out. So we're not going to be here on an empty magazine and feel the squish trigger and then be like, time for S.P.O.R.T.S. And then do all this. And be like, oh, it's an empty magazine. Okay, so we're not going to do that. So it's always we identify first. When we get into, oh, let me put that dummy round back in. All right, so the things that S.P.O.R.T.S is good at. So if we have a loose magazine that has not been seated in all the way, so it's not all the way up, so it's not going to be high enough to actually allow the bolt to strip that first round. So we're here, we're going to fire, you get a click, turn, identify we have a malfunction, the bolt is closed, we're going to tap, pull and hold open, O for observe, R for release, the bolt carrier and charging handle, T is for tap, the forward assist, S is for squeeze or shoot. All right, so that is S.P.O.R.T.S. It is going to handle the failure to feed, specifically because the magazine isn't inserted all the way. It will work with something that is a short stroke, like a very mild short stroke, where if you're shooting and then it kind of does this, and so it doesn't actually extract the casing. And that could be for a couple of reasons. It could be your gas block is messed up. And if that's the case, it's going to be doing that on every single round. And you're going to have problems. You're probably going to have to manually cycle every single time you do that. The other thing would be if you get a cartridge and it doesn't have the appropriate powder charge and it's very, very low, it's not going to have enough pressure to push back on that bolt carrier and cycle it all the way back and extract and eject that spent casing. So you'd have a short stroke. So it'll work on that because we're going to, do I have a round in there? No. Do I have a round in there? Yeah, I do. Guess I could have done a press check on that. All right, so if we're here and it does a short stroke, that would clear, and now I can see I felt it lock back, so now I'm going to observe and I see it's an empty magazine, and I'll go from there. Now, if it had another round in it, then it would just charge. Well, we'd observe that the chamber is clear. We would release the bolt, tap, and then shoot. I need to get that dummy round back. All right, so those are the two malfunctions that it works very well at. Now, the problem is, once we start to get into some of these other more serious malfunctions, which these are the difficult ones to deal with, it isn't going to work. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try to create a double feed. What we're going to do is we're going to have one round. So this one's chipped off, so I've got to make sure that I have it facing the right direction, otherwise the extractor won't grab it and flick it out. So that might create all sorts of issues all on its own. All right, we're going to do that. Let's actually have that out just a little bit. Oh, didn't want it out that much. Okay, so we're going to be here. We're shooting. Boom, boom, boom. And, well, I think something just broke. Or just kicked that one out. That's kind of cool. Let's see. What does it do? Oh, yeah, it kicked it out. All right, I'm going to put it in like this. All right, there. We got a double feed. Man, that thing flicked off this way and came back at me. All right. So we're here. Spongy trigger. This could be a couple of things. It could be the magazine is empty. We have a locked back bolt, so we can clear it, put a new magazine in. It could be a double feed, could be a stovepipe, and it could be a bolt override. So it could be any of those. So again, we're going to identify. Now, if I go into, I see it, it's a double feed, and I go into slap, pull. Oh, that one, it worked. But let's say it's still wedged in there, which that's typically what happens with a double feed. They're both still wedged in there. Now I'm stuck. So I don't know. So at this point, I'm going like, it's still in there. So I can't release. And if I do release, I'm going to release it on. I'm going to release it on that malfunction. I want to try and see if I can make it a little bit better so that you guys can legitimately see what's going on here. Okay, so that seems more like a legitimate double feed. All right, so I have those spent casings in there. One of them is technically a dummy round. It's a spent casing, and then I just put a projectile back in the top, which this one kind of has it, but it fell in because I didn't crimp them down very well. We have a double feed. All right, so if I observe, tap, pull back, and I release this, now it just wedged all that stuff in there even harder. So now if I try to tap it, now it's wedging it in even harder, and it's still inoperable. So then if I try to release the magazine, okay, that's still in there. Let's see, did that clear it? Nope. So now, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to have to reach in there with my fingers and try to clear it out. So I just made that malfunction a little bit worse. So we don't want to make that malfunction worse than it already is, because a double feed is already somewhat difficult to deal with. Okay, now this other one, now this one, you wouldn't think that it'd be that difficult or that bad, but a stovepipe gets really bad, and this is how I ended up busting my gas tube. So we're here, and then I'm going to place this in here. So we have a stovepipe there, but we also have a round that's trying to go in there. So if I'm doing this, and I'm going to be careful on this, I'm not going to go all out because I just replaced the gas tube and gas block earlier today, and I don't want to break it again. So I'm going to go light. So it's not going to be as bad as it should be if we were running it the way we should to actually do this right. Okay, so if I'm here, tap, rack, okay, so it doesn't come out because it's got wedged in there. And so this is where if you release it, release the bolt, and let it go. All right, yeah, so now we got a stovepipe, we got a round trying to chamber in, it's like 2/3 of the way in, and then we have another round in the magazine that's trying to go up. So we have 3 casings here that are inside this chamber that we are now having to deal with. So if I try to tap it, that's going to wedge this all in tighter. So what we will then have to do is lock the bolt back. Yep, see, so I have some other kind of malfunction in here now. There we go. Yeah, see, so that created a worse malfunction to try to deal with. And now, when I was just doing it earlier, because I was kind of running through this, trying to see how I can create some of these malfunctions to show you guys without actually going to the range and trying to create them live there, which that can be difficult, especially because I'm usually all by myself. When I did that, I was letting the bolt go hard the way that you normally would. So I would release the charging handle, or I would push on the paddle and release the bolt. Well, it ended up having the bolt carrier, the gas port, the gas chute on top of the bolt carrier, smashed into the front end of this, bent it sideways, and then warped the front end, cut into it, and then pushed it all out. So then we weren't actually able to get it to go in the way it was supposed to. Let me grab a bolt carrier here. I have one right over there. So basically what happened is it came in and it ended up smashing into it like this. And when it's supposed to go in, so then since it smashed it, it no longer fits inside of the gas chute up on top. Gas key. What is that called? I can't remember what that's called anymore. I have to look that up. That's embarrassing. I'm a gunsmith. Sometimes I forget things here. Okay? How it's supposed to go is it's supposed to go in. Okay? So it damaged it. That means I had to remove the handguard, remove the muzzle brake, undo the gas block, pull that off, put a new one on. That's not something that you're going to be doing in the field. I guarantee you that. So it made my weapon inoperable. So once it did that, the bolt would only go about this way. Empty magazine, nothing in the chamber. It's just that gas tube was preventing it from close. So it'd always be 2/3 of the way. Couldn't get it to go any further forward. And the thing is, first I was kind of like, is this a bolt override? I don't know what's going on. And it took me a little bit of time to figure it out and process what was wrong after I'd taken it all apart. Because when it was up in there, I could see it, but you couldn't tell that it was warped because we could see the bottom of it, but we couldn't see the top. And the top is what got hit the hardest. So I could see that it kind of bent to the side a little bit. And so then I was trying to push it over to the side to try to make it line up. Still wouldn't do it. So at that point, I just had to take the whole thing apart. That's with the stovepipe. So a stovepipe, which is typically pretty easy to deal with if you know you're dealing with it, ended up being really bad. What we could do, what am I going to do? Grab this one again. Is this it? Okay. I'll go ahead and do this again. So for here, I'll just leave it like that. So if it's here, well, I'm going to go all the way back because this would be a really mild stovepipe. So if we get into this, we look and we observe, we can pull back and then shake it out and then double check, see if it's good. If it's not good, then we would have to, rework it. Okay, but what I'm going to do here, so now we have it to where it's a stovepipe, but it wasn't because of a short stroke, it's because something else is going on. Could be a number of things, but it didn't eject properly and it got stuck in here, and now we have another round that is trying to go in. This one is going to be even worse. Okay, that first one's easy, but this one we can look and observe, and if we do this again, so now it's stuck because it's a much harder stovepipe. So typically I'll skip that. I'm going to go right into this. See, it's stuck. I can't even lock that open. Okay. And if I try to rack it a couple times, it's going to just smash it in there harder. So we're here. I'm going to observe. I'm going to look. That all fell out. We can do our clear and then insert and then rack it again. All right. So again, if we go with sports, it does put us into a weird predicament with something like that. So I'm going to do it again here. Because once we get into it, so I'm just going to do a mild one right now. So this one's going to be fine. So this one we would be able to pull back and shake it, but if it's not this mild stovepipe, the pull back and shake isn't going to work. So then we're going to get back like this. So imagine that that's in there really hard. Okay. Once we get here, it doesn't come out. We're stuck. So what do I do now? Because if I release the bolt, if I release it hard, it's going to make it a lot worse. Might damage that gas block or something else. If I go slow, and see, even if I go slow, now I just created a double feed. So it's no longer a stovepipe. It is a legitimate double feed. So now I'm going to have to try to lock it open anyway. Strip that all out, check it all, and then go from there. So it's just one of those things where that stovepipe can be tricky when we're using sports. So anytime I see a stovepipe, my goal is to strip that magazine out. So you could go magazine first if you wanted to. So we could be here and we see that. We could strip that magazine first and then do that. Put the magazine back in. Okay. So yeah, you do have other options. I typically just say do the same thing over and over instead of trying to do one or the other. Just because we need to come up with an acronym for what this is, where it's just this. Let's see. O for observe or I for identify. T, charge. C, it's both. All right, I'm leaving that to you guys in the comments section. Find me an acronym. This is what it is. Okay, so we're going to do this. Okay. All right, get to it, Internet. Get to it, YouTube. All right, so there's that. Now, if we have an override, this is, similar. Let's see what we got going here. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock that bolt back. We're going to push the charging handle forward. We're going to grab a spent casing, and we're going to put it in the charging handle canal right there. Okay? And then we're going to let that bolt go forward slowly because we don't want to damage our rifle unnecessarily. And so what we got here is that casing is now sitting on top of our bolt carrier like that. As we work this malfunction, this is going to be another thing. So we're here, okay, we're shooting, squish trigger, we turn, bolt isn't all the way forward. We can see that there's still rounds in the magazine. We can't see the back end of the round in the chamber. We see the chamber's clear. We don't see a stovepipe. We don't see a double feed, but the bolt is not going forward. So this is now an indication that we have a bolt override. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lock it back. And then this is another indication that your charging handle doesn't go back all the way anymore. It'll feel really weird. We're going to strip that magazine, try to shake it out. If it doesn't shake out, we're going to try to do that a little bit and then shake it out again. Check it, it's clear. And then continue to go. So those are the main malfunctions. And then there's like a variety of them, like different phases of them that you can run into. Sometimes they'll be like super awkward. And sometimes they're just completely uncontrollable. And it's like a 1 in a million chance that one of these variants will pop up. But if you are trying to do something that is a one size fits all, it's always going to be this. So even if it was a failure to feed, that's going to fix it. Double feed, it's going to fix it. Stovepipe, it's going to fix it. Bolt override, it's going to fix it. If your magazine isn't seated all the way, that's going to fix it. So that is a fix all. So that's something that I would recommend doing in like low light situations, because if you're here and you're like, I can't see what it is, I'm going to tap it and rack it and see what happens. You might create one of these really bad malfunctions and then have to deal with something else. Like if you're going and it ends up being a bad stovepipe where it's just smashed in there now and sticking out and you can't see it and you're trying to work it and you're like doing this, and you're like, that's clear. I'm going to charge it again. Now you just created a double feed and you're having all sorts of problems. So it's better to just go directly to this. I can't see anything. I'm going to open this up, clear it all. You can go and finger it, insert, close, and that should get rid of everything unless it is a stovepipe that gets really smashed in there. But if you do it on the first time, we shouldn't get a second slam in there that's going to mess that up. Now, if it does do that and it doesn't go forward, then yeah, you're going to have to feel around and be like, oh crap, I have a stovepipe now. And then redo that, pull it out, clear that off, insert, and then go from there. So yeah, you're going to have to rework it, and it's harder when you can't see, and you're going to have to go a lot by feel at that point, which really sucks. But if you're in that situation, you're in that situation. Okay, but for the most part, if you do that, it's going to, like 99% of the time, it's going to clear almost everything that you're going to run into. So that is a one size fit all, but it is going to take a little bit more time than just being like tap and rack and hoping that that's the malfunction. So there's pros and cons to it. You kind of just have to weigh them yourselves and be like, you know what, do I want to spend a little bit extra time clearing it for sure? Or do I want to shave off, a second or two in order to do a tap rack and then shoot, with the possibility of making that malfunction even worse, which will then add a few more seconds onto everything in general. So you kind of have to weigh those pros and cons and see what you're willing to give and take. So I know a lot of people, if you have a really nice rifle, runs really, really well, and you trust it, and you're not getting any double feeds, and you have good magazines and everything like that, you can go ahead and say, you know what, I trust my weapon. I'm going with tap and rack. That's fine. But the thing is, the magazine a lot of times is the culprit, or some of these little parts, and they kind of wear out sometimes. So it can be trustworthy for years and years and years, and then 1 second it's going to fail on you, and then it's going to create that double feed. And my philosophy is, if it can happen, it's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen at the worst possible time. So that's just something that I've noticed happens in my life, where it's like it'll be like a 1 in 1,000 chance that it'll happen, and it happens at the worst possible time. So maybe that's just me. I'm unlucky. I don't know. All right, and then something funny that just happened. I replied to somebody about an earlier video where we were talking about sports, and he just commented. So this is like live. He commented. So here is his comment here. So basically he's saying sports, if you use it correctly, is going to work just fine. If we're doing the whole, I'm going to put this together so we can kind of run it somewhat well. So if we're here, we're going to pretend like we have a double feed. I'm not going to create one here. So we're here, say it's the spongy trigger. We turn, we see that the bolt is open, we see the double feed. We can still do, well, no, hold on. So we're still going to do tap. So we're not observing first. So tap, pull, we see the double feed. He's saying that we should be able to still lock the bolt open and clear that double feed. So we observe the double feed and we're going to take care of it. My thing is, how do I lock this bolt open now? There's the bolt catch and release on this side. I can't reach it with my thumb. I can kind of, I got it. Okay. Ouch. That hurts though. All right. So I got it. So I guess that's how you do it. I don't know. I replied to him asking him to comment back. So we'll see if he gets it. Gets it back to me here in time before this video is over. But I don't, dang, that hurt my finger. Like coming in, like I really had to push into the trigger guard there. That hurt. And this is even cut short, so it's cut thinner, so it's not as wide right here. Tapers in. If you have a standard trigger, that's going to be wider, so you may not even be able to do that. Let me see if I can do it another way. I don't think that's going to work. So if I'm here, so I don't tap, pull, observe, I see a double feed. We could try to drop that magazine and then try to work it and clear it. But then that magazine's done. So if we still have like 20 rounds in there, then we're going to get a new magazine, insert it, rack it, and then continue shooting. So that would be another option. I don't think I like that one. If you have a battery assist device, we can do that. So I like battery assist device. So here, don't look, tap, pull and observe, lock the bolt open, push the charging handle forward, release the magazine, clear it, insert, battery assist, close the bolt, continue shooting. If you have a battery assist device, that will work. But the S.P.O.R.T.S was mainly developed for like military. And as far as I know, military doesn't have a battery assist device. Although the M7 has a battery assist device on it built in, right? I can't remember. I've never handled one, but I'm pretty sure it does. So you could use it with the new one, but for the AR-15, which S.P.O.R.T.S was kind of designed around that, the military never provided the battery assist device, so I don't know why they would be implementing a device that they don't actually issue to the troops, because now you can't even use it. So again, let's do that again. Okay, so dead trigger, tap, pull, observe. It's a double feed. Can do that. That doesn't seem like a good scenario if you're having to work this quickly. That doesn't seem like the best scenario to be going through versus just observe. If they fall out, you see them fall out. You don't really need to check anymore. If you don't see them fall out, check. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And shoot. guys think? What do you think? Have I convinced you, or do you still hold on to sports? And remember, find out an acronym for me on this. This is not my method, by the way. So I got this a long time ago from Magpul, I believe, when they were doing all their training stuff. I think that's where I got it from. I may have changed something a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty exact to what they had. So, there you go. Sports. Maybe? All right, that's going to do it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, we'll see you later.